Welcome to the new year, 2023, and the new edition of Book Scoop. We're reviewing books from last year.
Yes,
December books. I'm Priscilla, and I'm going to talk about The Swedish Art of Aging Exuberantly, which is what I need, by Margareta Magnusson. She's the author of The Swedish Art of Death Cleaning. And Revenge of the Librarians, cartoons by Tom Gauld, I think you say, right?
Yeah.
Which is the best book ever.
I'm Sarah. We're going on a Swedish theme here. I read The Open Air Life by Linda
Åkesson
McGurk, and also A Spark in the Dark by Pam Fong.
And I'm Martsje, and I'm going to talk about Thistlefoot by Genna Rose Nethercott, which is an adult fantasy book.
All right, so I'll start with Revenge of the Librarians, which is the cartoon book for librarians, writers, and people who love to read. This has everything in it, and you can read it in like half an hour and it will just make your day. I still have to say the very first cartoon, which comes before the book actually starts, is still the best, which is about librarians taking over the world, an important thing. But I just want to share one, because they're all good, but this one is three authors on a panel at a writers conference. And the first one's book is called Horseback Doctor, and she says, this book was inspired by my previous career as a surgeon and my riding with cowboys in Wyoming. The second book is called Love at the Patisserie, and the author says, to prepare for my book, I spent a year apprenticed to a baker in Avignon and edited a Lonely Hearts column for the local paper. The third book is called The Literary Festival Murders, and the author is keeping mum about where her ideas came from. So if you're looking for a laugh and you love books and you love reading or you love libraries, this is the one for you. The Swedish Art of Aging Exuberantly, life wisdom from someone who will probably die before you. Margareta Magnusson was a best-selling author at the age of 85 for the first time when she wrote The Swedish Art of Death Cleaning, which is about cleaning out your house so your kids don't have to after you're gone. And this is her second book, which she wrote when she was 86, The Swedish Art of Aging Exuberantly. And she writes like she talks, so you feel like she's just sitting in the room talking to you, real down-homey. She has had a very interesting life. She and her husband had 5 children, and he worked for some Swedish company that sent him all over the world. So they lived in Sweden, they lived in the United States, they lived in Singapore, they lived in the Middle East. They just like lived all over the place. Now her husband has died, and she's living alone in Stockholm, and it's just stories about aging and how to, try to live life to the fullest, even as it sometimes becomes harder to live with the things you can no longer do. The chapters are wonderful.
That's what I was just going to say. The chapter titles are fantastic.
The first chapter is Have a Gin and Tonic with a Friend. And
the cool part about that is her friend is not nearby. They do it on Zoom.
Yes, yeah. And then there's The World is Always Ending. So that one is like, how to stay positive while things are still going bad. But some of the best chapters I thought was Take Care of Your Hair if you have it. And there's a whole chapter on chocolate and the importance of eating chocolate. She says it's good at any age, but it's particularly good after you're 80, which comes right after the chapter on Don't Fall Over and Other Practical Tips for Graceful Living. Yeah, just a delightful and also a quick read. So I can't tell you enough to read The Swedish Art of Aging Exuberantly.
And did you read the death cleaning book also, Priscilla?
I did not read the death cleaning book. I definitely need to go back and do it.
My mom needs to read that.
Yes.
My dad does too.
My mom did not, and I'm wishing she had.
So I finally read a nonfiction book. I know that is not me, but it was good. This is The Open Air Life, Discover the Nordic Art of Friluftsliv. I'm probably not saying that right. And embrace nature every day. So essentially the idea is that you're out in nature, not for anything competitive, but to enjoy time out in nature. And that can be walking, it can be cross-country skiing, it can be whatever, but that you're out in nature. And part of the reason that I chose this is because I do walk every day, all year round. And so I've gotten to see, and I walk in the village, but you still get to see interesting things. There's the 5 o'clock mornings when I see a fox cross in front of me in the village, or there was a possum in the middle of the road that was alive. A couple weeks ago, two mornings in a row, I got to see 2 shooting stars in the same spot. You know, those are things that you don't necessarily see unless you're out there experiencing it. So she talks about her life. She was born and raised in Sweden, but she spent time in the United States and then ended up back in Sweden, and thought that it was very important for her daughters to learn about this Swedish way of living. But it's an interesting book because you get stories from her in her life. You get some how-tos, like here is 5 fabulous camping hacks. You get stories of other people that she interviewed. There's recipes in the back for if you want to do camping outside. There's lists of what equipment you might need, because the idea is not to buy so much equipment that it's prohibitive, but to just have what you need to do what you're doing. So if you're just going out to walk, what are some good things that you might want to have with you? It was a little bit slow going, but I think that was more me trying to read a nonfiction book because that's not my normal thing. But like after I got about a quarter of the way in, I just kept reading to finish it because it was interesting. There are definitely things that I thought, that's a little bit out there, but you know, there was lots of other things that made sense and were good. So The Open Air Life. I also read A Spark in the Dark by Pam Fong. This is a picture book. And you've heard us say many times how much we think that picture books are not just for children. And while this is a great book for children, what I really thought of when I read it was the students who will be graduating this year, because it talks about how there's lightness and there's dark, and you're going to experience times of dark. And you kind of need the dark in order to see that there's light in the world. And sometimes there will be a little spark and you follow it and realize, oop, that was not the right thing. And it shows a picture of it following one of the glow-in-the-dark fish to the bottom of the ocean. And you realize, oh, that's not the right thing. And you have to spend some time in the dark again. And it ends up being some jellyfish that guide it back up to the surface of the water. But A Spark in the Dark, a very good book for children, adults, teens, excellent.
All right, and I read Thistlefoot by Genna Rose Nethercott. And this is a book like any other that I've ever read. The story is very mysterious is not the word. And it's not fantastical either. It's more. What word did I find? I wrote it down, and now I wrote it too small, so I can't read it. Anyways, it's about 2 siblings who live in the United States, a little bit estranged from one another, who get thrown back together by an unexpected inheritance, a house. And it's shipped to them in a box. And the house has legs. It has chicken legs and it can walk. And they go on a tour around the US doing puppet shows because the brother thinks then he can make enough money to be comfortable for the rest of his life. And then she will get the house. It's a brother and a sister. A third very prominently, well, someone who's very much there, personage is the Long Shadow Man. And he wants to destroy the house. And the story is set in 2023. So people have cell phones and everything. and there's all this mysterious stuff that happens, magical stuff, and nobody questions it. You know, they travel around with this house on legs, and nobody ever thinks
that's a house on legs.
Yeah, that's weird. You know, and that makes it so wonderful. The language is not very straightforward. It's more poetical, and it's not a fast read. At least for me, it was not, because there was this world to discover and to, you know,
to soak in and live in.
Yeah. The magic that's in here is mostly Eastern European, Jewish-like. You can see that in the words that are used. And during the book, you find out about the siblings' life, their family's life, how their past influences them, and in the end, it's about, you know, who owns your past, and what happens if you don't pay your debts. And I wrote down one quote that I want in here, because it's beautiful language and beautiful things that make you wonder. What are you? Bellatine asked, and Bellatine is the sister. I'm not a what, he repeated. I am a when. And I just love that. So if you're in for just a journey where you don't know what's going to happen on the next page and you don't care if it's rational, Thistlefoot is the book for you.
This is, so I've said this before, the themes seem to come in waves with books. It seems like for a while you'll have a whole bunch of books like exploring the same idea. This book is obviously based on Baba Yaga, and which I think is a Russian Slavic folk tale, and this is the third book in the last 2 or 3 months that has come out that's a twist on Baba Yaga. So I also think that's interesting. Like, all these authors are getting the same wavelength at the same time, you know? But yeah, I wanted to read that one and I couldn't find it on the shelf. So now
you know where it was.
Now I'm gonna get it.
Now it will be back.
Well, yeah, I think we've got a lot of good things here. So I hope you'll stop by the library and check out some of these books or some of the other new books, or we have a display of the things that were most popular in 2022.
Here at our library.
Here at our library.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So be sure to stop by, and thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.